Hi, my name is Nathan Stumme. I am our Director of Risk Management here at OnTap Credit Union. I oversee fraud, compliance, and audit here at OnTap. I think one of the biggest myths is how organized it can be. It can be very fun to watch high-level, say, heist movies. Watch your Ocean's 11 and people are coordinated and organized and maybe have high tech or things like that. But sometimes fraud can be as simple as someone writing a check from a checkbook for an account that it was closed 10 years ago and they still have the checks lying around. You get hired by them to do something, they pay you with that check and then they disappear and you don't realize it's bad, but you deposit it, maybe you go spend some of the money, things like that, and suddenly the check bounces. So that's classic check fraud, and it can be as simple as that. Other times, these people aren't necessarily sophisticated, and they're not necessarily outside the country either. It could just be calling you up and asking info, and it can be hard to track that stuff sometimes. Fake identities are getting easier and easier to use. There was this TV show, Mr. Robot, where it actually had a wonderful scene showing how social engineering can work, where he was looking a guy up, seeing what school he went to, that kind of thing, and making reasonable assumptions about the person as far as what their security questions might be. Things like, what was your school mascot or family middle name? It's things like that, doing the social engineering, looking on social media, looking at their history, and then even in that scene, he still had to call the person and ask a couple clarifying questions, but just with those couple extra details that the guy gave, not thinking it was important, the hacker figured out their password and was able to move forward with their scam. And so a lot of times people think fraud is a lot more sophisticated than it is. Just remember, while we have a lot of tools to catch people, sometimes the best frauds are just running by the seat of their pants and don't have a lot of identity for us to track. Oh, what happens behind the scenes? There's a dozen different answers to that, and mostly it becomes because there's so many different ways for people to move money nowadays. Whether it's a simple ACH transaction, whether we initiated the ACH or another institution sent it to us, if it was on your card, if it was a debit card or a credit card, or any number of different ways, an online transfer, maybe you used Zelle. Depending on what the type of transfer is, can change the process a little bit in the back end, but for the most part, when we become aware of a transaction that we think is suspicious, we will look at the account history, look at the transaction, make sure we understand exactly how the money flowed, find out where it flowed to, which merchant it went to, or which other bank. We will then, a lot of times, take a look at the account history and see who's been logging in online banking lately, which IP addresses. Has that been the IP address been the same for the last 6 months, and so it's most likely to be you? Or has there been a new device logging in a lot lately? Or in the case of cards, similar thing, looking at other recent transactions. If it's out of the norm where there's a whole series of transactions in a state you don't live in, one explanation could be you're on vacation, but another could be that someone has stolen your card and gone on a spending spree. And so, especially with cards, a lot of times we might call you and ask, have you been traveling? Again, dangerous question to answer sometimes, depending, feel it out. But again, if you're not sure, feel free to call us back and we'll have the conversation where you initiated the call. So a lot of times on the back end, it's a lot of account research where we're looking and seeing what is the pattern of behavior and has that pattern of behavior changed. Now, how do we respond to it? If we've determined there is fraud and we've confirmed it with you, we need to dispute something. If it's a card transaction, we go through our vendors and initiate a chargeback through the Visa network, try to get those funds back from the merchant the best we can. Depending on the circumstance, we might end up having to take the loss and reimburse you, or it could be determined that no, you're probably liable for it. ACHs, online account takeover, the same thing. We'll reach out to the other bank and ask if there's ways for them to send it back. Sometimes they're able to, sometimes they're not. A good majority of the time we're able to get money back. But yeah, we got staff members that absolutely take a look at everything. One thing to keep in mind when something suspicious happens is we may not end up disclosing everything to you, especially if there's another member involved. We can't tell you anything about their account. And so you may feel like you're not getting all of the story, or you never really got closure on how did this happen. Sometimes we never quite found out where your card was stolen from. I'll never know if it was a gas station skimmer or someone opened your purse. But also, I can't give out other people's information, so I can only really tell you in vague terms what happened. The other thing is that there are some regulations where if we think something is extra suspicious that it needs to get reported up, especially high dollar stuff, we are legally not allowed to disclose some details about that. Some of you might be familiar with the regulation around suspicious activity reports. Those are highly confidential. A lot of times we can't even give the details of those with our board of directors or anything. Even internally, the details of those reports are need to know. So don't feel bad if you don't get all the information, but that's a little peek behind the curtain.
Cool.
Calls claiming to be from your bank or credit union. There has been a slew of people receiving calls where the person on the other line, it looks like they're calling from your credit union, they're spoofing your phone number or our phone number, and then they'll call you and say, hey, I'm with the fraud department. We noticed some unusual activity on your account. Did you perform X, Y, and Z transaction? Or any other questions they might be asking you. And you trust it and you start answering information and you start giving them information. Information you may not realize is sensitive, like what's your username for online banking or all kinds of stuff. And when you start giving that out, especially if you start verifying your information, like giving them your social to verify yourself, it's a very common scam going on right now. We don't call people and ask for their information. That's just not how financial institutions operate. If we need that sensitive information, we ask you to call us. So yeah, please, just don't give out your information to people that call you cold. We've seen cases before where this especially happens if there was already an emotional connection where, say someone's going through a breakup, you're getting a divorce, you've had joint bank accounts. Sometimes things don't always get disabled properly. You forget to remove someone from an account that you don't use often or something like that. But the partner remembers and they'll come in and maybe drain it, or maybe you set up a connection for convenience between your personal account and your business account so you can transfer money back and forth, and you separated on your personal account and took that all off, but you forgot they were listed as a signer on the business account. And now they're taken from the business, or even using that convenience connection to take money from your personal account through the business. It can be rough sometimes untangling those things. And yeah, you get emotions into the mix too. We try as best we can to unwind transactions and get money back, put things right that were moved improperly. But sometimes those things can take time. They can take days or depending weeks if we have to talk to other institutions. And when the emotions are running hot, people can definitely feel it, that they want it fixed now. Why did this person get in the first place? And it's like, well, you shared the life with them, and it's hard to untangle that sometimes. So it can definitely be hard on that front.